Hi, this is Matt Nelson, and this is my Module 4 discussion post. And the topic today is we were given a number of articles to read, and it was asked to us why educators should employ the FBA process for students prior to special education referral, and the significance of a FBA as a pre-practice when addressing behaviors demonstrated by students with diverse backgrounds. So, from the readings, it really is a case, in my opinion, of a cultural disconnect with schools nowadays. There was a lot of stats in some of the readings. The one said in the past 10 years, Latino students increased by 10 million, and this demonstrated a significant population growth among all three types of settings: urban, suburban, and rural. So the Latino population is exploding and has been for the past 20 years. And as more and more Latinos enter America, more and more Latino students enter the school system. And it's a big disconnect because as that landscape is changing in America and with our population, the school system in most regards is staying the same. There was a stat saying that approximately 80% of teachers are white females, and that's creating a diversity rift. And a diversity rift is when students' culture and ethnic backgrounds are not incorporated into planning and delivery of instruction. So basically, you have this influx of Latino students into the school system, and you're having these teachers who can't connect with these students, and therefore these students aren't gaining the knowledge they need. They're not progressing. And what happens when students aren't progressing? Oh, the student is slow, or the student isn't getting it, and they more often than not get referred to special education services, and or else these children are acting up. They're having behavior issues. They're talking out of turn. They're agitated. They're acting out, and all this can be zeroed back to a disconnect with the cultures. And I mean, I could compare it. I played basketball overseas for a number of years, and you feel like a fish out of water in some of these countries because I was the only one speaking English. You know, it was my culture I was used to, and you go into these countries, and all of a sudden it's a different language, a different culture, a different environment, different food, different everything, and you just have to adjust as you can. Now, for me, I mean, it was a lot different. I'm playing basketball. I'm not in a school setting, but you can imagine some of these students coming from a Latin American country, and they're just they plop them down in the classroom, and they expect them to start picking up the content at the same level and pace as their peers, and it's simply not the case. They can't follow along. They can't grasp what's going on, and so naturally they get upset. They act out, or the flip side, they just are labeled special ed and then pushed into a special ed classroom when it's more often than not a cultural disconnect. Now, the FBA is a sort of a bridge to this where when you see a student acting out or having a behavior issue or they're getting, the question is why? Why are they doing this? And it's sort of, it takes the, I guess you could say, like, bias of teachers out of the decision making process in the classroom. So you're not just, oh, this kid is not getting it, so boom, we're going to put him in special ed, or he's acting up, okay, we're going to give him detention, or we're going to suspend him, or whatnot, or some sort of other punitive punishment that frankly doesn't work because it's not addressing the problem. So the FBA is put in place to kind of get the data, talk to the parents, find out what the kid is struggling in, and then figure out when they're acting up. So let's say the student is always disruptive right before reading class, or right before reading time, or in reading, like before they read a passage out of a book. Then you could say, well, this child has a problem with reading. Let's address it. Let's figure out how we can resolve this. Let's put a plan into place to solve this problem so he stops acting up or what have you. And it's all about supporting these children in these classrooms, and the FBA has been developed in order to do this and to support these children, because without it, these kids would just be like a ship without a rudder in these classrooms. They wouldn't know where to go, what to do, and they'd act up, and they'd be labeled special ed or behavioral or emotionally disturbed, and that would be it. So the FBA looks at the why and why they're doing something, and hopefully addresses the problem and fixes it. So it's a very important process in the education system, and now more than ever, simply because of the influx of Latino students and students from all other countries, but Latinos being the obvious, focus with the huge population influx. So the FBA is there in order to help these students, and hopefully, as more and more schools evolve, the FBA has a bigger role in more and more classrooms, and it gets the students the help that they deserve.